What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Behind Show. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the most underrated team in college football, and that is the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. Southern Miss only won one game a year ago, but everything changed for them in the offseason, and that starts with new head coach Charles Huff. Charles Huff spent the past 4 seasons as the head coach at Marshall University, where he was 32-20 during his 4 years with the Thundering Herd. In 2021, he helped Marshall get to 7-6. In 2022, he helped Marshall get to a very impressive 9-4 record, including a upset victory over Notre Dame. In 2023, Marshall was 6-7 with a victory over Virginia Tech. And this past season, the 2024 season, he helped Marshall get to a 10-3 record, helping them win the Sun Belt Conference and helping Marshall get their first conference title in a decade. With Huff and Marshall unable to agree to a contract extension, Huff ended up leaving for Southern Miss, and Charles Huff brought several familiar faces who played at Marshall to Southern Miss with him. One of those players include Brilen Braxton. Brilen Braxton is by far the most underrated quarterback in college football. This past season for Marshall, he was 8-0 as a starter, the only quarterback in college football to be undefeated with at least 8 starts. He's a very efficient quarterback, having over 1,600 passing yards, 19 pass touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. Braxton is very efficient and very rarely turns the ball over, but something else he's very good at is his rushing ability. He had over 600 rushing yards this past season for the Thundering Herd, to go along with 4 touchdowns on the ground. He had 2 different games this season for Marshall where he had 140 rushing yards. I was very surprised Braxton ended up transferring to Southern Miss because I thought for sure he would go to a bigger school. I'm surprised he did not get as much Power 4 interest, but it does make sense with him pairing up with Charles Huff once again, but this time in Hattiesburg. Another player that Southern Miss got who I think will really help them this season is Josh Motton. Josh Motton is also a transfer from Marshall. This past season, he had 5 interceptions, which was 4th most in college football. He's one of the best corners in college football, and if you don't believe me, just take Pro Football Focus's word for it. Motton is listed as the 7th best corner in the 2026 NFL Draft, according to Pro Football Focus. And Motton is the only Group of 5 corner to be in Pro Football Focus's top 200 prospects for the 2026 NFL Draft. Motton is not only one of the best corners in the Group of 5, he's one of the best corners in all of college football. Brilen Braxton and Josh Motton are by far Southern Miss's 2 biggest gets in the transfer portal. Southern Miss got several other transfers from Marshall as well. Wide receiver Carl Chester, who had 20 receptions last season for over 340 yards to go along with 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver Elijah Metcalf, where in 5 games he had 20 receptions and nearly 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Braylon Brown, who had 15 receptions for over 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. When you look at Southern Miss, they're bringing a head coach who won the conference last season, a quarterback who was undefeated, some of his weapons, and one of the nation's top cornerbacks. And it's also worth noting, Southern Miss has a relatively easy schedule this season. Their first game of the year, they take on Mississippi State, but they actually host Mississippi State. This is a huge game for Southern Miss, and this game is already a sellout for the Golden Eagles. Mississippi State is one of the worst teams in the Power 4. They only won 2 games last year, and as crazy as it sounds, I would not be surprised at all if Southern Miss upset Mississippi State this season. Mississippi State already lost to a Group of 5 team last season in Toledo, and I would not be surprised if it happened again this year with Southern Miss. Despite playing an SEC team, I think Southern Miss's 2 hardest games on their schedule is that when they play at Louisiana, a team who actually hosted the Sun Belt Conference Championship game last season. Louisiana, by many, is picked to win the Sun Belt Conference. And then on November 8th, they travel to Arkansas State, a team who some people think might end up winning the Sun Belt Conference as well. The bad thing about that is that both of those teams are in the West Division, and Southern Miss is in the West Division as well. So they desperately need to win those games in order to have a chance at winning the Sun Belt Championship. Although some people think Louisiana or Arkansas State will end up winning the Sun Belt Conference this season, as crazy as it sounds, I think Southern Miss will win the Sun Belt. It's crazy to think a team who won just 1 game a year ago might end up winning the Sun Belt Conference this season. With a relatively easy schedule, and you bring in Charles Huff, Brilen Braxton, a quarterback who did not lose that game last season, and Josh Motton, one of the nation's top cornerbacks. Expectations are very high in Hattiesburg right now, and I think Southern Miss is not being talked about enough. Southern Miss, to me, is by far the most underrated team in college football. That about does it for this video. If you're new to my channel or you've seen my videos before, make sure to like this video and hit the subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time on the Sports Behind Show.